Hey, everybody. So I wanted to just record this, reflecting a little bit on some of my personal experience recently that could be of some use for you. It's a little breakaway from all the money talk at the moment, but it's also connected because these things are very holistic, right? And I think what helps is the way to frame this, to understand this, is to begin to understand that the limits of your body are not your fingers and your toes. The limits of your body are not just your skin. I think we can become aware of this, when we are uh, just in space, in particular when we're around, say, incoherent people, or there's a kind of a creepiness in the air. We begin to notice, oh, I can actually feel my sense world extends way beyond my body and can actually reach others. I can sense a creepy person from a distance away. I can sense a creepy place from a distance away. I know when I lived in Berlin, and probably because there's just been so much darkness historically in Berlin, just wandering onto certain streets and getting a strong kind of like a chill up my spine, so to speak, because the environment of that street was affecting me at a level that I didn't really know about. I couldn't really explain cognitively, but I could feel it all the same. So this is what I want to talk about, and it really falls under the theme, the kind of the title of energetic hygiene, and recognizing that you are probably very sensitive. If you are drawn to this work, if you're drawn to this sort of introspection, if you're drawn to healing in this way, it it speaks to a certain disappointment. All spiritual journeys begin with a disappointment, a sort of a demystification. We realize, oh, my family weren't all that. My career isn't all that. Just trying to exist isn't enough for me, or even kind of there can be sometimes, if we've grown up religiously, there can be a disappointment in the religion. And that brings us, that's the first sort of the first step. The first step always begins with disappointment or disillusion or upset. Things break. And so we begin anew. Yeah. So things fall apart and it leads us on to this path. And as we're moving along this path, what I think is really useful to recognize, and especially right now, is that you are different to others. And that difference needs to be protected. And this is where I come back to this field idea. Recognizing that you are a field and recognizing that you're sensitive and this sensitivity is a gift. The sensitivity is kind of, I think you can begin to look at it as the future alive in your present. Your sensitivity is kind of pointing towards the world that we are creating, a world where people are just gentler with each other, they're kinder, and environments are more friendly. So this sensitivity needs to be protected. And this is where I come back to this idea of the field and just sort of what my personal experience has been recently with all the chaos in the world at the moment. If you are someone who indulges in the news or in social media, it it's can be quite normal now to just look at your phone and see death, um, and read about horrible, brutal statistics and things like this. And what I've noticed is in the last couple of weeks, the last few weeks, I've been pulled more into that. I am now fully up to date on what's happening in the world. And it has begun to invade my dream world a little bit. I've had violent dreams in the last few nights. So I noticed in my dreams, there's sort of moments where I'm being attacked or I'm witnessing an attack. And now I can deduce that this is something I brought into my field and it's present. So much in the same way that if you were to ingest a certain food, your body would feel a certain way. I have been ingesting a certain kind of information, and that's had an effect on my dreams and clearly having an effect on my body too. So, coming back to this idea of energetic hygiene and coming back to this idea of your field and the importance of recognizing just the importance of learning to be quite diligent about what gets access to you. Do you know what I mean? If you had a neighbor who was incredibly negative and said things that upset you, you would limit your access. You would limit that person's access to you. I think in the same way, if there's certain places in the world that create feelings in you, certain institutions, certain shops, so on, certain bars, I don't know, you would limit your access to them. This is all about parenting, being a good parent. You wouldn't allow your child to be exposed to certain negative content. So it's the same with yourself and recognizing that it's not, it's not, um, it's not a simple thing. There's always a transactional cost here when you engage in a lot of the news and you engage in a lot of the negativity at it. It always has an effect because ultimately the world that we encounter is based upon what we pay attention to. Now, this is sort of like the simple golden rule of manifestation. Whatever we pay attention to, the universe gives us more of. This is why we always kind of come back to this idea of gratitude. You know, when we can stay in this place of gratitude, when we can stay in a place of play for curiosity, pleasant surprise, like what if it all works out? When we stay in that position, then that's what we encounter. When we fall into negativity and we fall into everything's terrible, the world is so violent, there's so much brutality out there, which there is. I'm not saying these things don't exist, and I'm not talking about a kind of a toxic positivity here. I'm just talking about the power of your attention and the importance of maintaining a clean field, a field of awareness that is conducive to your work. So, coming back to your sensitivity and coming back to this idea of like, why would you be so sensitive? Why would you have the sensitivity to connect to your heart? Why would you have the sensitivity to feel other people? The reason you have this is because you're on a mission to change the world. You have these sort of special gifts. You could say you have these special talents, these qualities, these genetic mutations, if you want to get into like X-Men speech, right? And these things are they kind of the very, very front tip of a wave of evolutionary change. Your sensitivity is the sensitivity that we're all going to experience in the future. So yeah, um, just become aware of where your attention is. Keep a tight leash on it these days, these months. And just remember that if your attention is on all the terrible things that are happening, it's going to create a sense of fear in you. Now that fear, it isn't just passive. Your fear is a creator. The fear is a very creative device. And when we feel fear inside our body, when we pay attention to the fear, that fear then creates a reality that we become scared of. When your attention, instead of fear, can remain in this place of, I'm so grateful for some of the beautiful things that exist. I'm so grateful for the love that I cultivate in my heart. And that becomes the reality. So I guess what we're being asked to do, and this is the work that a very subtle and probably barely recognizable work that the sensed people of the world are being asked to right now, is to hold a positive vibration in the midst of so much negativity. It's a little bit like a candle in the dark. That's what you are. Your candle in the dark is the love that you can hold inside yourself, the gratitude you can hold inside yourself, the beauty that you can still kind of manage to keep. My partner and I were talking about a friend of ours we had in common, a beautiful Italian guy called John Markham. And we were just talking about how he exists as though he doesn't know what's going on. You know, he exists beyond sort of the anxiety of this age. And there's nothing kind of particularly, um, I don't know what his practice is. I don't know what he does. He's a sort of a simple chef, and he he goes around cooking at events, and it's a very stressful job. But he sees beauty everywhere. There's something in his nature where he sees beauty everywhere and he sees positivity everywhere. And when other people are complaining and other people are negative, he rebuffs it with just positivity, the positivity that he sees. And this is sort of the work that we're being asked to do here. The work is to really kind of see beauty. And the way we see beauty is we maintain a type of a really sort of protection of our field. You know, we really keep our field in this positive way. And I think that's sort of the work. That's the work that we're being asked to do right now. To not fall into hate, to not fall into fear, to maintain gratitude when we wake up in the morning and we recognize, whoa, the air is thick with anxiety and tension, that we sort of go, okay, but I'm going to find beauty somehow. I'm going to look at a plant. I'm going to get in the garden if you have a garden. I'm going to touch the grass. Whatever it is, I'm going to do something beautiful. I'm going to honor the beauty that also exists. Often with somatic healing, you know, when the body is just rippling with grief and pain, what a practitioner or what a facilitator will ask you to do is say, can you find any part of your body that feels good? And often, you know, you'll be able to feel like, oh yeah, there's a spot in the sole of my feet that feels good. Or my hands feel good. Or if not good, they feel neutral. And then the facilitator will say, okay, bring all your focus to there. Then you bring all your focus to there. And then the next step they'll say is, okay, can you begin to look at the pain in your body, but through that good part? And this is what we can do. We can bring our attention to what is good. And then by bringing our attention to what is good, we can hold space for all that is not good, for all that is painful. And that's really all I wanted to say today. So be aware of your field, be aware of what enters your field. In the same way you probably wouldn't allow a toxic person to get your ear for too long. Be careful about the news you're watching. Be careful about the social media you're ingesting. And just be careful about where your attention is going, because at the moment, in the moment in our civilization's journey, we are at a point where the old world is tumbling away and a beautiful new world is being birthed. And that beautiful new world that is being birthed is one where sensitive people like you and me thrive, where our sensitivity becomes the superpower of the future. So guard your sensitivity, guard your field, love yourself, drink water, sleep when you can, and find joy. You must find joy and beauty. Okay, bye-bye. Love yous.